What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Mikey McNuggets, as always, joined by Earl the Pearl and Anthony Antonelli. Usually we could see our names, and I don't think we see our names today, and I'm curious why that is, Ant. Do you have any idea?
You got to hide the lower third.
There we go. Oh, it hides it when you do that? See, didn't even know that. Well, we are here on a beautiful Wednesday night, an hour earlier than usual, but same quality of show that you will get. We're going to talk a little Browns, a little Cavs Media Day behind the scenes, a little fantasy football fugazi that Bull tried pulling over Anthony's head. And as always, we will be taking your viewer questions. But we'll give the people a few minutes to get in here before we dig into our top topics of the night. But we'll start with this. Anthony, how you doing, man?
I'm
Long
good.
time no see.
Hello. I know I haven't seen you guys in about 3.5 hours. Was feeling a little sick yesterday. Won't lie. Was pretty down in the dumps. Feeling better today.
Earl?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just making sure the people getting the links out. You know,
Hey, actually,
working while I'm working.
While we're waiting for people to get in, Earl, you want to share with the world what you're doing? I think it's next week.
Next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah.
So, man, so I get this extreme honor and privilege to go to Cuyahoga County's Juvenile Detention Center and speak with some young men between the ages of 14 and 19 years old. Shout out to G for actually recommending me to a gentleman named Kenny Anderson. And Kenny Anderson was really familiar with me from my work at 92.3 The Fan, loves my work here at Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and really didn't know too much about my backstory. And I get excited for things like this because, you know, I make it well known where I come from, some of the things that I've done growing up, some of the things that I've seen growing up. And I like to be a beacon of hope and inspiration to people that come from the communities that I come from. And so to get this opportunity to go talk to some troubled young men, to give them some hope and some light at the end of the tunnel, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really, this is something that means a lot to me. I feel like that when you can relate and when they can see somebody that can actually say they've been through some of the same things that they're going through right now, I think that can be a little bit more encouraging than somebody coming to talk to you who ain't never been through none of the stuff that you've been through. And so definitely looking forward to it. So I'll keep y'all posted on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're proud of you. At least I can't speak for Anthony. I'm going to assume he's proud of you too. I know I am, but
yeah,
I didn't just make sure.
Is G going to get to
that line here? Listen, but no, we're proud of you, man. You're going to kill it. And shout out to G I think G did that when we first started, because he wears the Kenny Anderson sweatshirt. I think he wore it
he does.
yesterday, actually. It's the blue and red sweatshirt.
He does.
So I know he did that. Shout out to everybody tuning in with us already. I see Danny.
Shout out to you, Danny.
I'm going to try pronouncing the first name. Parajat?
Real quick, before we get too off, is G going to record your speech, Earl? Like, will he be there to catch it on the phone or something?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you want to get some pieces of it, you know, we can make sure that happened. But this is something that it means a lot to me. You know, I feel like my grandmother always told me that I was a gifted young man, right? And I tell people all the time, you can tell when you're truly dealing with a true gift because it's the thing that you do the best with the least amount of effort. And this is something like working in the sports media industry is something that I always wanted to do. It's me chasing my dream. But I don't think it's ultimately my purpose. I think this is my platform to fulfill my overall purpose in life. And this is just an example of me really fulfilling my purpose. A lot of things is bigger than me. A lot of things is bigger than me just making sure my 2 kids are straight and stuff like that. So try to just spread love and be great. I post every day on Twitter. I really live by that. So I'm really looking forward to it and interested to see how I go, interested to see how they receive me. I walk into every situation like that humble and understand I'm here to give something to somebody else. And so that's what it's about.
No, it's going to be dope, man. We are excited for you and you have deserved and earned the honor to do so. So we'll give everyone a follow-up, I guess, not this coming Monday, but the Monday after, how Earl does. Shout out to Evan, Wayne, Blitz, Danny, and Bill all in the chat with us tonight. We appreciate you guys. Let's dive in, guys. It's 5 minutes in. And this is something that we've talked about in the show. We've talked about before the show. We've talked about after the show. But there's been a difference of wording and a difference of stories from the top of the Browns brass over the last few days regarding the decision for Deshaun Watson not to play on Sunday. On Sunday, Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski had a conversation after warmups. Deshaun apparently told Kevin Stefanski, I can't go. Stefanski walked off the field. Dorian Thompson-Robinson plays. It doesn't go well. Then we hear on Monday from Coach Stefanski that it was Deshaun's decision. He was cleared medically to play. It was his decision not to. Fast forward to this morning, Andrew Berry gets in front of the podium for his State of the Browns address, which he gives every bye week, by the way. It just happens to be earlier this year because it's a week 5 bye. And he said it was a team decision. Now, listen, we don't have to blow this up too much. It is what it is. It happened. It moved on. We can kind of pinpoint this to being a bye week. We don't have a game to talk about. So, yeah, maybe we are over-analyzing a few words where Kevin Stefanski may have misspoke. But do you get the impression, and I want to ask this very carefully, do you get the impression that there is a little disconnect between Kevin Stefanski and Berry and Watson? Like, those two are tied to the hip, and Stefanski's the interchangeable part. So do you get that there's any level of dissension between those three based on how they've handled what happened the last few days?
Matt, you can go first.
I don't think so. I don't want to think so. I think it could have been just an easy slip up. Stefanski has kept up buttoned up for 4 or 5 years now that he's been the Browns coach. A slip up's bound to happen here and there. I don't think he was after Watson. I don't think he's trying to cover his own, I think Andrew definitely came out to do some publicity coverage for him after the slip up, but I don't think there was any actual dissension between all of them.
I mean, if I answer the question point blank, yes. You use the term, you don't want to overanalyze words. I don't either, and I don't want to blow this out of proportion. But, I tell you two all the time, I spent a large amount of my working career working for the Cuyahoga County Justice System inside of courtrooms. I spent a lot of time around judges. And the one thing I do know is that anything that you say can be used against you in the court of law. And judges teach you that every word that you say, it matters. And it can sway an opinion of a jury, and it can sway the opinion of fans. If we're talking in the football sense, it can sway the opinion of media members like ourselves. And, I find it hard to believe that somebody with an Ivy League education who's not usually transparent is just going to all of a sudden up and slip up like that. Somebody who's made sure that he's been very cautious with the words that he used throughout his entire coaching career to this point, all of a sudden forgets those same concepts that he puts in place when he steps in front of a microphone and talks to a media. Mike, and I do think it's some discord there. I do think that there's a communication gap there. Is it the biggest deal in the world? No, I think those things can be fixed with conversations and a plan in place. But you can clearly see there's a disconnect. For Kevin Stefanski to go out there and say the things that he said, we've asked Kevin Stefanski to be more transparent, and I guess you got to be careful what you ask for. But I am scratching my head to feel like, why all of a sudden did he feel the need to, be that straightforward with this particular situation, knowing how us in the media is going to react to anything that's involving or surrounding Deshaun Watson. And so those situations there are kind of like hair scratchers. And then to have Andrew Berry come out today and totally go against the grain of everything Kevin Stefanski said, Bull and Jay went back and forth, said, he was trying to clean it up. And you can try to clean it up all you want. What's said is said, from what Watson said to Mary Kay on Friday to what we heard and what we seen on Sunday to what Kevin said Monday and to what AB said today. So, I don't really think it's much to clean up. We're going to talk about it. We're going to analyze it. I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but it is something to pay attention to.
Two things. One, it's the bye week. We need something to talk about. There's no game to preview. If Kevin Stefanski sneezes, it's a story in Cleveland. It is what it is. So people say we talk about stuff, we do too much with this, that. Listen, Browns rule the world here. If something happens with the Browns, we are going to talk about it. Let me preface this with this. I don't even necessarily believe what I'm about to say, but let me throw you guys a scenario and you tell me, could you see there being an inkling of truth here? Okay. So I'm not even saying I'm just going to give you a scenario. You guys tell me it might be possible, or McNuggets, you're way off here. After the game on Sunday, who do we all point the fingers at for the terrible offensive performance?
I pointed it at Kevin Stefanski.
Most people pointed at Stefanski for saying there was no game plan. You didn't have DTR ready. You didn't run the ball. Most of the fingers were pointed at the head coach and not the 5th-round pick making his first career start. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Yeah.
So if you're Kevin Stefanski and you go home that night and all you hear, and whether you want to admit it or not, everyone hears everything. All these guys read stuff. Trust me, I can tell you, the Browns listen to UCSS. We have gotten calls after stuff we said, and they call and ask how we heard things. And trust me, they listen, and not just us, but to other stuff in the city. Like, they can say they don't listen. They're listening. If you're Kevin Stefanski and you're 2-2 now, and all the fingers are getting pointed at you, and you know your quarterback is not leaving for the next 4 years based on his contract, is it possible that Kevin Stefanski was kind of fighting for his job there and saying, hey, the doctor said he could play. Listen, the doctor said he could play, so he played through a strained groin. He played through a torn quad in Houston. He had a shoulder bruise, and the doctor said he could play, and now he didn't. Like, don't put this on me. Is that possible? I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying, is that possible that Stefanski said what he said? Because the man's intentional with his words, and usually he's intentional by saying nothing. So I have a hard time believing he said this unintentionally. I don't think it was a slip up. I'm just asking, is that a possible situation of what happened here?
I don't think it's far-fetched. I don't think it's far-fetched personally. I think it's very possible. I mean, let's just be honest. This is the same regime that allowed Baker Mayfield to make the choice about he was going to play. And then due to whatever pettiness that he had, he allowed that man to stay out there week in and week out, knowing damn well that he was hurting himself and the team in the long run. And so, could he be feeling like, he's on a hot seat? Could he be feeling like his job is on the line? Possibly, but at the end of the day, no matter what Deshaun Watson said to Mary Kay Cabot on Friday that didn't come true on Sunday, you still a head coach, and you still let your backup quarterback go out there with a game plan that was not really catered to him.
I am not once again, that was just a theory.
No, I'm just saying. So like,
Stefanski's not off the hook for the blame.
So what I'm saying is like, if he's heard us on the post game show, if he heard Tyvis on the post game show that he was on, if he heard Nick Camino and them after the game, then of course he's gonna come back and say, hey, look, the man said he can play. But I got a question for y'all too. Sure. Just off that, hypothetically speaking, like, if the man ain't throwing down football all week long, like, we listed all the injuries that he's played through. I don't recall Deshaun Watson playing through an injury in Houston that involved his throwing shoulder. If this dude can throw a football, all week, and then he goes out there and warm up and he can't throw a ball past 12 yards, and what sense did it make for a doctor to clear him to play? That's what it's so many different. Bro, I got so many questions, and we're gonna try to get as many out tonight.
I actually know the answer to that. So when a doctor clears you to play, it is not, and Leroy kind of said this, being cleared to play doesn't mean you can play. Being cleared to play means you're not gonna hurt yourself more by playing. So you're cleared that we feel confident that if you play, it's a pain tolerance thing, not a are you at risk to get more severely injured type deal. So being cleared doesn't necessarily mean he was capable. Being clear means he was physically healthy enough to not get hurt again, if that makes sense. However, it befuddles me, and that's a word I've never used on the show, and I just used it, and I think I used it right, that if you did think Deshaun was going to play, and you saw what he did in practice on Wednesday, a.k.a. nothing, on Thursday, 2 throws, on Friday, just handoffs. On Saturday, I don't know. Why would the game plan not involve more short, simple, quick passes? And as much as I want to crush them for not running the ball, and I do think they should have ran the ball more, they did attempt to run and had zero success running against Baltimore. The first run by Jerome Ford was a 26-yard run, got called back for holding. Their next 6 runs combined came out for 11 yards. That's 1.5 yards a carry. Like, that's not going to cut it against the top 5 run defense. Mm-hmm. But the planning is inexcusable from Stefanski in my mind. The planning was terrible.
Oh, you can go ahead,
Yeah, no, I mean, you always have to have a backup plan, even if Deshaun is healthy. Anything can happen during that game at any point, right? Mm-hmm. Do I think Stefanski was fighting for his job? He could have been. And I'll use myself actually here as an example. So when we make true and false, I tend to copy and paste all the questions straight from Mike's email onto the graphics. That's my little speller. Easy way to do it. And it turns out both of us are terrible at spelling. So it's the blind leading the blind. But like, it would be like if I went on the show or behind the glass, like, and just be like, look, it's all Mike's fault. Like, it's on me to check that too, right? It's like, sure, Watson could be fine probably, but you still have to plan for him not to be. Especially you just lost your star running back. You know that anything can happen at any point. It's football. Like,
you also have an offensive line that hasn't blocked anybody all season. By the way, little tease for Friday.
Yeah,
I sent Ant the email already with the stats. I don't know if you took a look at it.
I have not read it.
I have done
as of yet.
Maybe the deepest dive into the Browns offensive line I've seen anyone do so far. And the deeper you get in the analytics, the worse it gets. It gets. It's bad. It's bad. I mean, Stephen Webb's comment real quick. The Browns don't run out of the shotgun, which is shocking because they hired a guy this offseason in Bill Musgrave, whose specialty was to help develop a running game out of the shotgun. They are the most predictable team in terms of what they run out of the shotgun. I don't have the numbers in front of me, Steven. I'll find them for Friday for you. But they are the single most – they either pass the ball or they run it behind Batonio. It's like 88% of their plays are one of those two categories out of shotgun.
I think for me, I'm looking at this situation, and it's mind-blowing because the one consensus about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski as a tandem is this is a group that's always prepared. This is a regime that has a plan A through Z all the time. And, if I was to take anything away, my overall takeaway from Andrew Berry's press conference today was a dude that was trying to save face, but at the same time was very frustrated. You know what I mean? And I think that when he mentioned, getting back to a certain type of consistency and standard, it sounds good on the surface, but, you use the phrase deep dive. I mean, I'm just going through, my memory just right here in the moment. And it's like, okay, well, what type of consistency and standard is it to get back to? Because like, I'm and I don't want to like knee jerk and I don't want to overreact, but I'm really starting to look at this thing and I got more questions than I got answers because
can I ask you something on that exact thing, Earl?
Yeah.
So Berry said today during his presser, he essentially was like, hey guys, be patient, trust us. He's like, we got this, right? You're, and I say this in a good way, as diehard a Browns fan as I've met in the city. What have they done to make you feel confident you can trust them to get back to any level of any standard of success when it's been 1 playoff season and 2 losings? Like, how could in year 4 the general manager sit up in front of a fan base with a roster that is Super Bowl quality? I don't care what anyone said. If Bull wants to disagree, Bull's wrong. It's a Super Bowl caliber roster.
It is.
And say, be patient. Like, we'll figure it out. I feel like the patience here in Cleveland with this regime and the talent of this roster, where they're at in their careers, like there's no more time to be patient. Like, the time is now.
I think the patience is running thin. And this is the thing that I paid attention to. This is he does the state of address at the bye week every year. And then at the end of the season, the week after the season ends, every single year. And this is the first time that I can remember him being so transparent. And the rally call for the fans to just hang in there. And this is like, G is the one who typically used the relationship analogies, right? But before you all ever met me, man, I've been a fan of the Browns before I started pursuing this professionally. And like for most people, man, the Browns is pretty much your longest relationship of any kind in this city. But it's starting to look at, I think a lot of people are starting to look at this relationship with the Browns like, okay, is this a healthy relationship that we just need to kind of overcome some adversity with? Or is this a toxic relationship that we go in getting our hopes up, expecting the same thing over and over and constantly being let down? And for Andrew Berry to kind of call for the fans to be like, hang in there with us, it seemed like they know they done messed up.
That's how I took it too.
They just need you to hold on. Like like now all of a sudden they feeling like, okay, I'm about to lose my girl. You know what I mean? Let me do whatever I got to do to try to make sure everything.
It's the equivalent of that like Tuesday night steak dinner when
you
really can't afford the filet mignon, but if you go to steakhouse on a Tuesday, they get the neighbor discount. Yeah.
And it's a crazy analogy, man, but that's what it felt like, because again, this is a dude who really don't say much. He don't really give you too much. And he let it be known, like, hey, listen, I got a lot to say. Before you ask me anything, I got stuff I need to get off my chest. And I just thought that was very odd, because I've never seen him approach a situation like that before. And so that tells me, like, yeah, they feeling the heat. They feeling it, and they hear the noise, no matter how much they might want to say that they don't. And so this bye week, I think, honestly, even though it's early, it came at the right time, because I think this team does need to sit, kind of like, let the emotions subside, kind of reset, get a reality check, and then try to see how we can move forward. And how this team, responds to the adversity, and how this team communicates from the top of the organization to the last player on the roster going forward after the bye week, it's going to be a telltale sign, and not just if the Browns can make the playoffs or not.
I see we got a couple questions here real quick that we're going to answer. These are football related before we move on. We got a bunch of Cavs behind the scenes stories from Media Day we want to share, but I saw something about Jed Wills. Here it is. It's from Will Williams. Why hasn't Kevin put Jed Wills on the hot seat or benched him? The guy is getting people hurt, disrupting the timing of offense. No competent coach would allow this. The reality of the NFL, as bad as Jed Wills is, and I'm not in practice, I don't see it every day, they must believe whoever's behind him is even worse.
James
there's whoever it is, it could be me.
I didn't convince myself the same thing. Like, clearly it ain't no better
in practice that they're not comfortable. And people keep asking to move DeJuan Jones to left tackle. I've never played offensive line in my life. That's a lie. I played in second grade, got my ass kicked every single play. That's why I didn't play football any further. So I did play offensive line, but I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of like steps. People who are much smarter than me, who have played offensive line at the highest level, have said asking a guy of DeJuan Jones' size to switch mid-season his step and his footwork, his steps and footwork, is damn near impossible. It's an off-season task. It's something he's going to need time to do. And asking him to do that mid-season is going to end up in even more of an issue in terms of pass protection. So, unfortunately, I think the Browns are stuck with their tackles this season. I'm not quite sure there's a fix. And that's terrifying because, like I said, I'm teasing Friday. As you're going to find out, the deeper you go into the numbers, the worse and worse it looks. And it's not just the tackles. It's all five guys.
Mike, I just read your email, and it's horrifying. I
wish? And it's funny because we get the communication emails from the Browns as well. Just a little bit of stuff behind the scenes. Like, we have the ability to show up. We just don't have the manpower to show up. But it made me think of something that if I was in that room, I would have asked Andrew Berry, Andrew, do you regret your first ever draft not drafting a natural left tackle versus drafting a right tackle, trying to turn him into a left tackle? And I'm not trying to make any excuses for Jed Wills whatsoever, but I'm just wondering, like, was him trying to make that switch a bit too much? Was it something that, it just seems like it's something that he just can't do? And again, I try to keep 71 out my mouth because at this point, anything I say, that's bully behavior. I am not a bully. I don't like bullies. Me and bullies, we got issues. So yeah. I'm just wondering, like, if I was given the opportunity to ask Andrew Berry a question, that would be the question I would ask him. Like, do you regret not drafting a natural left tackle versus taking a guy that played right tackle and trying to turn him into a left tackle?
Two things real quick. We'll move on. Danny McCall says, I played offensive line at Heidelberg University. I can tell you firsthand it's the hardest thing a lineman can do. And that's in terms of switching your footwork midseason if you're accustomed to one way. I think on paper it sounds easy just to switch DeJuan Jones to left tackle. But I think in execution, it's actually much harder, especially on the fly. What's up, bro?
My cousin Quentin Rimbert played at Heidelberg. I think he was a left guard.
What year? Danny, what years you play?
I can't remember, but
text your cousin.
I mean, I said his name, so like he
would
know what I'm talking about.
And secondly, it's funny. So that draft class with the 4 tackles that went high, Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs, Jed Wills, and Mekhi Becton. 2 of those guys have turned into 2 of the best tackles in football. Andrew Thomas is an absolute stalwart for the Giants. Tristan
Wirfs might be the best of the bunch.
Might be the best in football. And then Mekhi Becton and Jed Wills have been absolute.
Yeah.
And it's been as good as those 2 have been. The other 2 have been equally as bad, which is it just goes to show scouting is such a crapshoot that those 4 guys were that going into the draft. So the Giants took Andrew Thomas first, but the highest of the 4. And I was like, dude, I don't know who I like out of these guys. Like, you listen to every analyst, they had a different ranking of the 4. Some guys like Thomas, some guys like Wirfs, some guys like Wills. And there's a few people who were betting on Becton because he had the size and stature that none of the other guys did. And 2 of them have been great, and 2 of them have, frankly, been not good at all. So it's such a crapshoot. It's such a crapshoot. But yeah, little tease for Friday. Do you guys want one nugget? You want one early nugget on this offensive line deep dive? And should I give him one nugget?
Yeah, you're not gonna give him one nugget. I mean, this is a show that you're a co-host of. This is not the show that you are the producer of. So you can't give your own show a nugget. You're gonna say all your nuggets for the Friday show, and you're on your own damn show. Can we at least get some sauce with the nugget too?
Give me an offensive lineman. I'll give you a nugget on that player.
Wyatt Teller.
All right, Wyatt Teller. All right, you know what? I'll save the individual ones. I'll give you this stat. So we talk about the offensive line as a whole and how this year we think they've taken a step back. And we talked about, has Nick Chubb kind of hid the warts of this offensive line for the last few years? Are you guys ready for these numbers?
Yep,
in 2022, Cleveland Brown ball carriers had an average of 2.48 yards per carry before contact. So before they got touched, almost 2.5 yards. In 2021 and 2020, that number was exactly the same, 2.39. So just again, almost 2.5 yards without contact. Now this year, the number's up to 2.72, which is more. And you're like, how's that possible? Well, it's inflated because Jerome Ford's 69-yard run against Pittsburgh, he did not technically get touched until he was tackled. So if you take out that one run, which I know, take out one run, it changes everything. Without that one run, Earl, the Browns are at 2.001. Almost half a yard difference between the last 3 seasons and this season in running back yards per contact. Now, what does that mean? That's 1.5 foot for running backs to make a move, make a guy miss, break out into the hole and do something. It may not seem like a lot, but that's almost 18% difference from the last 3 years to this year and how much running backs had a chance to operate before they were contacted. The 2.001 is also in the bottom 7 in the league. So we'll get to all that and more on Friday.
Can I respond off of that real quick?
Please.
So Andrew Berry did a second interview. He was on 92.3 The Fan with Dustin Fox and Nick Wilson. And he uniquely described Nick Chubb as a unicorn. He said he was 101. Dude is a unicorn. He talked about the backs that's in the on the team now and how those guys have a skill set to complement each other. I've been saying this and I'm going to keep saying it, man. I don't know what the recovery from this injury looked like, but Andrew Berry speaks of Nick Chubb like he doesn't view Nick Chubb like any other running back in the NFL. And when you present factual numbers like that, it goes to show how much of a unicorn Nick Chubb is. It goes to show how much Nick Chubb's play has hidden horrible offensive line play. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, that's how good he is, that he's hiding how bad the offensive line is played. Some people in the chat, maybe you can go back in your head and try to visualize this, but I seen a drastic change in the offensive line the moment that Deshaun Watson took over as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. The offensive line was not this bad throughout the first 11 games with Jacoby Brissett back there. And I think that Deshaun Watson's style of play doesn't necessarily complement how some of these offensive linemen play football. Like, Wyatt Teller was regarded as one of those offensive linemen in the city of Cleveland that had a big name, somebody that was considered the best right guard in all of football. And ever since Deshaun Watson has stepped on the field, he's looked worse and worse and worse with every passing game. And I don't know if many people have paid that any attention. And you can say that about a lot of different offensive linemen. And I don't know how that issue can be fixed. I don't know if it's something that, you know, the analytics department can go in and do an assessment of, and I could just be flat out crazy, but I'm just going off of what my eyes have seen since he's taken over during the Texans game last year and to now. And it just seemed like the offensive line and their skill set and what their strengths are doesn't necessarily match up with Deshaun Watson's skill set and his strengths. And we can talk about all this money being spread around, but we got a damn expensive offensive line, regardless of contracts being restructured or not. And so when Andrew Berry is assessing this roster going forward, then, you know, while you spending all this much money elsewhere, maybe you don't need to be spending that type of money on your offensive line. Maybe you need to check a different type of resource. You did get lucky enough, and it seems like even though he's a raw talent that needs some development with his technique and his skills, but it seemed like you hit on DeJuan Jones in the 4th round, and you got lucky doing that. So,
yeah, Sam Monson from PFF was on Tuesday. He kind of explained Deshaun Watson holds onto the ball for a long time, and that makes him great, and it's also what leads to a ton of sacks. It's the beauty and the curse of Deshaun Watson, and that's not going to change. Let's talk a little basketball here, guys. We were lucky enough to be out at Cavs Media Day on Monday. Shout out to the Cavs for giving us our own booth, hooking us up. I think we ended up talking to 12 players, 2 executives, and a head coach, which was pretty phenomenal. Let me just say this. We apologize for the audio. I know it sucked. We all know it sucked. We had $320 worth of external mics, and they sounded like 32 cents. We are working on that. We've already done some deep dives into how to increase and improve our audio for next time. But we appreciate anyone who did stick through and bear with us, because I think the content and some of the stuff we got from the players was really, really, really good. And I want to start with Donovan Mitchell, Earl, who, for anyone who doesn't know, when we got to talk to Donovan last year, as he was walking in, him and Earl dapped up, and it was the dap heard around Cleveland. It was the dap heard around the 2-1 pick. It was the best dap I've ever seen. And Donovan, who we then saw again at Greg Newsom's softball game, remembered us. And then yesterday or Monday at Media Day, came up, dapped up Earl again. And I don't know if they've seen each other since. I don't know if this is the 3rd time they've ever interacted, but you would think these two are boys from back in like 1994, by the way the handshake chemistry was working. Or I was impressed.
I even got an exclusive with Donovan Mitchell at the Greg Newsom softball game, and I told you, Mike. Hey, Ant. So like we was talking about, you know, the home run derby, and when he walked up, I was telling Mike before he got there, I said, you know, like Spider broke a couple car windows. He like, yeah, we heard he did. So I thought it was forced. So like, I'm like, man, would you tell this man he broke some car windows? He like, no, I broke 2. One was a cop car. I'm like, oh, for real? Like, yeah, one was a cop car. Like the city on my ass right now, trying to get me to pay for it.
Yeah, I wasn't there with you guys, but I was very happy the microphone worked for Donovan, because I thought his interview was like the most real we had the whole day. And I thought he said some really awesome stuff. Like,
we may have to
accountability.
We may have to go back and clip him and Garland and just post them as separate entities, because those 2 interviews did come out good. One thing Mitchell said, or 2 things he said, but I want to start with this one. And this is a good talking point. And then we'll give you some behind the scenes stories from Media Day, because trust me, there are a couple good ones. But I asked Donovan, I was like, hey man, not to hammer home something you already know, but you didn't play great in the playoffs last year. The team didn't perform. You're not a rookie by any means, but you want to be considered and put in that conversation of the best players in the NBA, the best 2 guards. Like, is this any extra motivation? And you could kind of tell when a player BS's through an answer or when they're kind of genuine and mean it. And Donovan flat out, you know, he said shit 3 times in the answer, which means he's comfortable enough with us, which was always a compliment. Anytime we get an athlete to curse, like, I take that as a compliment. But he pretty much said early, he's like, dude, we could either dwell on it or we could look ahead. He's like, it's over. It's in the past. Like, I can't change how I played against New York. We can't change how we played against the Knicks. They beat us. Kudos to them. But we're looking ahead at the future, and I think we have the pieces now to compete with the best teams in the East. It is what it is. You know, I'm a man that I want to prove by my actions that I'm better than what I showed. And when you hear a guy say that, I didn't take it as just lip service. Like, I feel like Donovan Mitchell, with all the outside noise, with all the outside conversations about his contract, genuinely feels to me like he's coming in here to make a point this season in Cleveland. And as anyone who likes the Cavs, anyone who's a fan, that should be exciting because you have a guy who plays as hard as anyone in the league, as any superstar in the league, for a majority of the games, which is a rarity in today's NBA, who I think is out to prove that, you know, last season in the playoffs was more of a fluke than a norm.
So this was my 4th overall interaction with Donovan Mitchell, my 3rd professional interaction with Donovan Mitchell. I ain't saying I know the man like that. Mike, you're not saying you know the man like that, but I've been around Donovan Mitchell enough to get a good feel for, you know, who he is and how he is, right? And like Mike, I was running the cameras. First of all, yo, that's the first time I ever did camera work. We're gonna get back to that.
You did great.
But you know, just to hear how he answered that question, the tone of voice, the passion that he answered it with, the body language. This dude is a man on a mission. At the end of the series last year, I said that Donovan Mitchell and Isaac Okoro was the 2 people on the team that I felt like took full responsibility and accountability for how they played during that series. Donovan Mitchell said as the leader of this team, like, you know, he shit the bed. And this is something that he can't do. And the one thing that I paid attention to that I know you paid attention to as well is, you know, the dudes that's on this team now, the shooters that's on this team, the guys that we brought in to kind of help create space and open up things, the lane more for him and Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell recruited those guys.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell, like, you know, hey, come play with me. We right there on the cusp. We believe we got something great. And so the fact that Donovan Mitchell, who there's a lot of speculation about his long-term future in Cleveland, this is a dude who knows, okay, I got a squad. And he basically let us know he feel like he has a squad. And for all the talk about the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks, we had him and other players say, yeah, they got to see us too. And for him to go out and personally recruit those particular shooters to come play with him, it does seem like he's a man on a mission. It does seem like he's a man that's invested in this basketball team and trying to advance this team further in the playoffs than what we were last year. You know, and as far as like when anything looks like going forward, I appreciate that man being all in now while he's under contract now and putting forth the effort both on the court and off the court to help make this team better and get this team to the next level. And like, that's something that can't be overlooked.
He said, and I want you to chime in a sec, but to the topic of contract extensions, Cleveland, he said, listen, I can't predict the future. Who knows what's going to happen? But I can tell you right now, point blank period, I'm happy in Cleveland. He's like, I'm really not looking ahead. And do I fully believe him? No. Like, everyone looks ahead, especially if you have a $300 million contract coming your way in a year from some team. But I do believe he genuinely likes being in Cleveland. I don't think there's any anti-Cleveland sentiment in Donovan's DNA. And whether or not he resigns or not, I think it's going to be a basketball decision, not a destination decision, because Cleveland has provided him all the opportunities to win at the highest level. He recruited guys here that he likes to play with. Him and George Niang go back to Utah. Him and Max Strus have played together on AAU circuits, not AAU circuits, on summer ball circuits for the last 3 years. He's familiar with their games. He's familiar with them. And the connection between him and Darius Garland, and we'll talk about that in a sec, is blossoming into something I think has a chance to be pretty damn special this year. Ant?
Yeah, no, I think it's hard to get excited because I'm kind of in the boat with everybody. I don't think he's going to come back. I don't think he's going to resign. And I think it's because of the LeBron effect. LeBron left us twice. Like, I understand. He didn't resign with us twice.
It's fair.
Like, so as a Cavaliers fan and as a Cleveland native, like, I get it. We're scared. Like, we have this awesome star and we don't think he's going to stick around. And you know something? I'm just going to enjoy it this season while it lasts. That's kind of my thing. I hope we go far into the playoffs and I hope he stays. And I hope we can pay him the money that he wants to stay here. But you can't be upset if he does go.
For me, I look at it like this. If the Cavaliers, you know, can put it all together and take the next step forward as a basketball team, I don't think he's going anywhere. I know what Jason has said. I know what Brian Windhorst has said. I know what other reporters have said about Donovan Mitchell's long time future here. But I'm not even speaking like, on a record Cavs media day. Like, we talk to people like we are blessed to have earned so much respect and credibility that we got real sources. Donovan Mitchell really loves the city of Cleveland. This is no exaggeration. This is I'm not even being funny right now. Like, he really loves this city. He's like every other person that visits the city. You don't know much about Cleveland. You get here and you're like, damn, Cleveland ain't that bad. Damn, I can breathe here. Damn, man, it's real fandom here. Damn, the food is great here. Hold up, like, man, what? They got this lakefront? They got this to do? You mean to tell me I can just drive to Aurora Farms and I can go shop wherever I want? Damn, Cleveland really ain't that bad. So when it comes to the city itself, he has no problem with our city. He enjoys being in the city of Cleveland. It's like Ant said, it's going to come down to basketball. What type of team has Kobe Altman put together? How has JB Bickerstaff coached his team? How are you using the rotation? How was the new pieces in place complementing his game? How is the pieces complementing Darius Garland's game? It's Evan Mobley, and we ain't even got to this part yet.
That's it, Earl.
It's Evan Mobley,
bing,
ready to take that next step. And me and Mike got some information for you. The 22-year-old is so mature and so invested in his career. The man went and built their own gym in his home. The man got his own nutrition system now. So if all these things that has to do with basketball continue to come together, I find it hard to believe that he's going to leave this situation. Everybody can keep claiming New York as a destination situation, but what they going to do? They going to keep rolling out 3 or 4 guards that's the same size too? Like, come on now.
What's up, Bull? We see it. Bull, how's your arm doing? We'll get an update from Bull. We'll do a
Bull
little
came on the show. What's up, Bull?
Some people did ask who won, Mike. Do you want to?
We'll do it at the end. We'll save it for the end.
Bull whooped your ass. That's what happened. He whooped your ass. That's exactly what happened.
As the referee,
yes.
I don't know if we're going to go.
Bull did win. Bull did win. I think it was a little iffy at the end. I do still believe his elbow came up, which was the death blow.
Man, I watched the tape twice, man. I sent it back to New York for further review. Like, it's inconclusive, dude.
Elbow was up.
It's hard to say. It's not reviewable.
Well, if it's not reviewable, then Bull wins. Yeah. Bull, at the end of the day, Bull beat me. Like, it's true. He did beat me. I do think he got
on our ass already. You see him?
He got his elbow up.
He talking big stuff already. Let us leave.
No, hey.
His training
we have not done anything that's not fair, Bull. All we've said about the Cavs is I think Donovan Mitchell is on a mission. Evan Mobley built a home gym, is put on. He said 7 pounds of muscle. We saw him. If that's 7 pounds of muscle, then I don't know what the hell 7 pounds is for someone else. He looked like he was significantly in better shape than he was at any point last season. And I got to sit for the Nuggets game. Kudos to Anthony for being sick that night or for having a birthday for whatever reason.
It was a birthday party that I didn't want to go to.
Anthony's friend got him tickets, and then he's like, "Can't go. You want him?" And we got upgraded to courtside. And that's as close to an NBA player as I've ever sat. And he was not that big. He was just not that big last year. This year, walking through media day, clearly looked like he was in better shape. I also want to talk about something Darius Garland said. My favorite soundbite from the entire media day. We talked to George Niang, and we asked him, what's it like playing with Donovan Darius for the first time? And he said, well, the best part about playing with Darius is I don't have to guard him on national TV.
That blew my mind.
I was like, what do you mean? So when Darius came over, we obviously had to ask Darius, Darius, what have you done to George? And have you guys played each other in practice yet? And first off, Darius laughed and was like, no, we haven't played against each other. But now that I know that, I'm going to have to bust his ass every time. And the pure joy, like at media day, it's mostly all lip service. Like the reality is it's mostly lip service. Every team feels like they're confident. Every team feels like they're in a great position to win. The Thunder, when they were tanking, were like, this is our year not to tank. And then 2 games in, they're like, we're going to rest all our guys. So a lot of what you get from media day is just kind of vibes. And from Darius Garland, when he said that, to see him laugh, to see him like give a genuine smirk to, hey, I'm about to destroy George in practice. I think there's the inklings of a really high chemistry team here. It was already high chemistry last year, and the guys they've added with a little more maturity. I'm excited to see that aspect of the team.
I think the coolest thing about the I don't know if you peep, it was some trash talk going on after he left the set. Like,
With
you know, I asked him the final question. You made the statement like, you know, this is two of the men with some of the best hair in the city. And he was like, man, stop playing with my hair the best. I said, you know damn well my hair the best. Like for real, like if me, Imani, Alex Wright, David,
Goku.
MJ, like media members, players, like, come on, man, y'all know what's going on.
See, this is the thing. I got a great chance to direct media day, and I miss out on all the fun while you're actually there.
Yeah, he was like, man, stop playing with my hair the best. I'm like,
speaking of hair, you want to tell the Sam Merrill story?
Oh, you two look like twins. You guys could be long lost brothers.
So listen, how it goes. You know, they each have a liaison that walks around with them to fulfill their media obligations. They come to each booth. You know, we try to keep them for no more than 5 minutes. They got a lot of people they got to see. And Sam walks over, and the person that he was with, she goes, you know, him and McNuggets look like twins. They get to arguing about 3-point shots. When I tell you, like, the whole media day was like just a vibe, just a chill vibe. And they really remembered me and Mike. Like, this was like, they really remembered us.
Craig Porter Jr. came up and just dapped us up before he even sat down with us.
Before he even sat down.
I think, like, I don't know. I don't want to toot our own horn here, but I think they watch more than they'll let on. And I mean, we had a lot of fun last year. Like when we went last year and, you know, Earl was grabbing guys and Mike was interviewing them. It was a fun time. Like the Cavs, no matter what, they are a good group of guys. Like there's not a single bad egg on the team, I guess you could say.
There are definitely some who didn't remember us. Akuro did not remember us whatsoever at all.
Yeah.
And the fact that anybody remembers us, like, I'll take.
Yeah, that's true. No, we've definitely made some headways. Kobe Altman is
first interview. Our first interview last year was Sharif Cooper. Our first interview this year was Kobe Altman.
We went from Kobe to KB back to back.
Did Kobe even talk to us last year? I know he talked to Jason.
He did talk to us because Brad
remember.
tracked him down. Yeah. Couple more stories from Media Day, then we'll answer. We got a great viewer question. If you have any other viewer questions about some behind the scenes stories, we would love to. Behind the scenes of UCSS, we will absolutely answer them real quick. We got one from Evan419, but anything else you see in there, Ant, let us know.
Yeah, I'll keep.
So Tristan Thompson is back, and Tristan Thompson, you guys all remember, won a championship here. He was at ESPN. He bounced around to the Lakers. Been all over the place since. And we asked Darius what it's like playing. What's the difference in Tristan Thompson now versus then? And this was off camera afterwards. He goes, well, Tristan's got a dad bod now, and he was in shape in 2016. So I thought that was a great answer. Craig Porter Jr. came out, dapped us up, hung out with us again. We told Brad that his player comp was Rondo and Dwight Howard combined. And both, there's a dog running around the patio right in front of me. So I'm watching a dog run around, play fetch. I have a very short attention span. We told Brad that Craig Porter Jr.'s player comp was Rondo and Dwight Howard, and Brad almost fell out of his chair.
Yeah, he did.
Literally almost fell out of his chair. That was a classic moment.
I left the camera upstairs.
Yeah, we walked in the stadium. We go down and set up the cameras. And I'm like, Earl, where's your camera? He's like,
you have one job, Earl.
I was like, where? I don't know where it is. I'm like, you were carrying it, bro. You better know where it is.
Look,
especially because that's a camera we were borrowing from KYC.
I had the tripod and I had my computer. I hook up the tripod, I hook up the computer right with a camera. I'm like, I don't know. And that dawned on me, like, I grabbed everything with the camera. So when I went upstairs and got it, the nice lady that checked us in, she was really sweet to me and Mike, by the way. She laughed at me. She was like, slow down there, young man. She was like, you gonna get it together? I said, I think this is the most important part of it all. So it was I was nervous, man.
They spelled Earl's name wrong for the second
year in a row. They didn't spell my name wrong.
It's the only thing they haven't done right for us. The Cavs have legitimately hooked us up. I can tell you, I don't want to give names away, but between Earl and myself, we got a couple of numbers from guys who are, let's say well-connected. Let's just say well-connected. Yeah. Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
It's well-connected. Maybe some players, maybe some execs. But
my contact list has definitely grown over the last week.
We definitely have increased our ability. No, I can't tell you guys what happened. No, we can't say that.
You can't tell out.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We have a guest who was going to come on the show today. We're not going to tell you who.
Yeah.
I promise you he will come on the show at some point. And
he better. I made the graphics for him.
No, he will. I have the utmost confidence. It's not a Cav, but a big time guest that I know you guys are going to enjoy hearing from. He had a medical thing today, but he will come on. Last media day story, Earl, and then we'll wrap up. Oh, Bull wants to hop in. Ant, will you send Bull the link?
Yeah. Let me remember how to do that.
Bull, we'll get you in.
Quick.
Hold on. We'll absolutely get you in here.
Please hold, Bull.
Bull, check your email. Anthony's going to send you the link.
Go ahead.
Last media day story before we get to the questions, because I know one of them, at least from Evan, involves Bull. And he, I don't even know if he knows the answer. I don't even know if Bull knows the answer to the question we're about to ask him. But we're at media day. We're walking around. And my guy Chase from Press Play Pods comes up and daps me up. What's up, man? And I'm sitting with Brad and we're talking and we're having a conversation and I'm trying to notify him that, hey, we're on the air right now. Cause we did 2 hours straight. Like there was no breaks.
Wait, real quick. Is this the guy who just walked right in front of the camera shot?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was very confused.
Nobody knew that we were just live for 2 hours straight because most of the people next to us were radio. You do a hit, you commercial. Well, UCS does it bigger, better than everyone else. So we do 2 hours straight. So there was a part of the show where I had a 3-minute conversation with someone who you guys couldn't hear because he wasn't mic'd up. The mics barely worked anyway. And afterwards I go over, I'm like, it's all good, man. No worries. I think he apologized 50 times. And Chase is a great dude. Check out Press Play Pods with Chase. He does a really good job. Chase Bryce's last name. Really, really good job. But he came up and was like, I can't believe you guys went 2 hours live. What kind of psychos do that? And I was like, us kind of psychos. We do that. So
we in the studio all night like Lil Wayne in 06.
So with that, I see 2 questions in here. If anyone else has a behind-the-scenes question about Media Day, about UCSS, about any of the guys on the show, we'll get to that. But I'll answer the first one while we're waiting to get Bull in here. Would love to hear the story of how McNuggets got his name on the third ever UCSS. So that would have been May 9th was the first day. So May 11th of last year, we had Joe Thomas on for the first time. And we did a top 5 cheeses with Joe Thomas. And I said pepper jack cheese was my 5th answer. 5th best cheese was pepper jack. And Joe was like, that's such a generic answer, but what would I expect from a producer named, what's your name again? Mikey McNuggets. And it kind of just stuck. And we were looking for a nickname because producer Mike is so boring and forgettable. And when you're in a new city, I wanted someone a little more catchy. I'm a normal sized white guy with normal hair. There's nothing special about me. If my name was Mike, everyone forget I exist. So that's how McNuggets came to be, and I've now fully embraced it. And I would love to get a McNugget T-shirt. I would love. I think I could push some serious McNuggets merch if we ever came out with a McNuggets line.
I think that at that point too, we were just calling you Tenders or something, like Mikey Tenders.
They called him Tenders.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. It was really weird.
We went through 6 nicknames from the beginning of. I had just met Mike. I knew Mike for I don't know, 4 days in total, and they were calling Mike all sorts of shit.
Hey, we got Bull here, so let's bring on our guest.
Tenders is the only one that I think made it to the air.
What's up,
Bull?
Fellas?
Hey, Bull, how the hell you was letting people call him Tenders?
That was still the best one we came up with.
What's that?
Before
they was calling Mike
for
Tenders before he was McNuggets.
I don't think I was calling you that.
Jay was the leader of the Tenders Brigade, which never caught on.
No, that was bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
By the way, you guys, you're out of control with your name dropping the 3 of you right now. Bragging about all the connections you have.
Oh, I was in the studio by myself. The only name I can drop is Jay Crawford.
That's true. Listen, I'm glad you guys have made connections, and I know you have, but you got to be cool about it, guys. You can't be bragging about how many connections you made.
Well, we're not bragging about connections. We are validating why people should listen to us.
But they know that already. You don't need to tell them about your connections. If they can't tell just by listening, then F them.
What? We love everybody, Bull. We love everybody. Stop. Hey, Tempe, stop it. Bull is a middle-aged man yelling at clouds. Stop it.
I'm looking out for you guys. I don't care about Tempe. Tempe, you're a hater.
All right, Bull, so we do have a question.
Hey, can I shout out Jamie from GV Artwork today who saw me. I was having breakfast, and she came up to my table, and she was so excited to meet me, and she was really nice. I invited her to sit down, and then I invited her boss to sit down, and we might do something with them at some point. But she was very nice and a huge, huge fan of the show, and she might even be watching right now.
Jamie,
Well, shout out Jamie. Jamie, tell your boss to answer her message. I left a message on your boss.
Yeah, she'll get back to you.
Jamie once
what it
sprinted across
like
like the concourse of a hockey game to say hi to me.
And you got Taylor Swift number at? Hold on.
Whoa, wait, I do?
Hold on.
Oh, I just another Cleveland guy. Don't worry about it.
Speaking of name drops, I heard Bull was getting lunch at the Sleepy Rooster with Halle Berry the other day. Bull,
Wow,
That's true.
Okay.
Not lunch. It's breakfast at the Sleepy Rooster.
Brunch. But we do have a question for you specifically. And before I answer, because I do know the answer, I'm curious if you do. This is from Evan419.
Yeah. Shout out to Evan. I love Evan.
Evan's
He's a
day
good
one
man.
guy.
Like 90% of our fans. The 10% of their haters, they can go to hell, but they
I'ma
won't.
tell you
They'll
why I
keep
love
watching
Evan.
anyway.
I could tell you, like, Evan like family, because like me and Evan was getting into it last Sunday doing the Browns post game show, and like we just like back like nothing never happened.
That's right.
Evan came to the comedy show too. So we actually
Evan
we
runs our
confirmed
fantasy
Evan's a good
football
dude.
league for the fans.
Oh yeah, he did.
Oh, really?
I got to update my team.
Oh, we have a fan league.
There's like 9 or 10 members in there, and then it's me, Mike, and Earl are in there too.
Oh, really? How
I think
did
I
not
just
know
lost to
about
Mike.
this?
Yeah, I didn't know about it until the last second either, Bull. Don't worry about it.
No, I just mean, why didn't you guys tell me about it like already?
Oh, I
Not
feel
to
like we
be in
mentioned
it, just to know what's going on.
You got to be more in the loop. All right,
haven't
Bull, here's
paid
a
too much
question from Evan though.
I'm out of the loop.
Who was responsible for emptying Bull's puke from the trash can?
Oh, I don't know. How the hell would I know that?
Bull did leave right after.
I do know the answer.
Was it director?
I'm going to say Steve. I'm Steve, the director, Steve.
Incorrect. It's actually a funny answer. Earl, you want to take a guess? And it wasn't me.
Nah,
I do everything.
I was clipping the show. So
Yeah, Earl was upstairs that day. Weren't you?
no, I was downstairs. I was just clipping the show.
So, do you guys remember? After it happens, we go to break. It's probably the last break we've ever taken on UCSS. I don't think we've actually taken a break since that day. And we pulled the trash can out as far into the corner by the gym as we could. Like, just get it away. Well, afterwards, I was like, Steve, I'm not touching that. And Steve's like, I'm not touching that. So we called Herbie to call Dwayne. So Dwayne, who shout out Dwayne, the custodian at Channel 3, came down and he's like, I get paid 50 extra. I don't know why I'm doing a Southern accent, but he's like, I get paid $50 for cleaning up puke. This is awesome. So he bagged it.
He really gets paid extra for cleaning up puke?
For cleaning up puke, yeah. So, Bull, you helped make Dwayne's day.
Should I throw up more often to get him some
absolutely
more money?
Not. No.
I'm trying to make the man some money, Earl. Don't grudge him that.
You want another funny behind-the-scenes story about the puke?
Yeah.
So, I hope I can say this. I'm going to say it. Don't worry, but I hope I can say this.
Yeah.
Our show also airs on WKYC Plus, the app, every day. And I don't think throwing up technically breaks FCC rules, but it's certainly not encouraged by the people at Channel 3. So we had a call after that show, Bull.
Yeah.
About should we take the full show off, edit the puke out, and just come back?
That person should be fired, honestly. Come on now.
Or do we leave it in? And I believe, so the YouTube version we didn't touch. The YouTube version we stayed up.
They took it out the.
I believe we took that show off.
Oh my God, that was hilarious, though. I mean, not at the time for me, but
I think I had to clip it like a special way that day because they didn't want it on the app.
Yeah, we stopped.
That's so dumb.
Creative Juice, I like that.
I don't think it would have been
creative.
bad.
I love Creative Juice.
If
That's
Steve
a good one. Adam the Hurl.
If Steve
I was that
the camera, well, that was a rough time.
Yeah.
I should not have come into work that day.
And for anyone who forgets, this was the day after the Browns beat Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers week 1. The Bengals had lost, and Bull texted me that morning, dude, I feel like absolute dog crap. I can't come in. I'm sorry. And then texted me about 30 minutes later, I can't let Jay walk on Baker's grave without me. I gotta be there. I gotta be there. And then came in, and
I wanted to bust Jay's balls because he loves Baker, and he pretends like he doesn't love Baker anymore, but you know he does.
We should do biggest athlete crushes for the UCSS set. Like, does Jay's love of Baker supplant Tyvis's love of himself?
No.
Not even close.
Absolutely not.
Not even close.
Does Jay's love of Baker supplant Brad's love of Carmelo Anthony?
Maybe.
No.
No, I don't think so either. I'm with Earl.
Does Jay's love of Baker supplant G. Bush's love of Deshaun?
G. Bush. I think G. Bush loves Deshaun more.
It's pretty far down there.
All right.
Earl's love of Chubb.
No, Earl's love of Donovan Mitchell.
Hey, Donovan, look, I stand on that. Donovan Mitchell had one of the best Cavs seasons I ever seen. I'm going to my grave, and if Bull come to my funeral, make sure that y'all mention it. Donovan Mitchell had one of the best seasons I ever saw.
2 things. Number 1, that's fine as long as you include something you didn't in the past, not including LeBron. And number 2, hopefully, this is probably bad for me, but I should die before you, Earl. So you should be coming to my funeral. I'm a lot older than you.
Bull, can I say something at your funeral?
Can you say something at my funeral?
Can we do like a UCSS eulogy?
Sure. That would be up to my wife, not me. You could talk to her. If I die. I mean, it's pretty morbid that we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
But.
Well, we're about to. Bull, do you have here? We always get to ask you questions.
How do we get here?
we have 3 minutes where we have to wrap. Do you have a question for myself, Earl, or Anthony? I'm putting you on the spot. No prep here, obviously, and I apologize for that. But we got till 1:05 on the clock that you're looking in the top left corner.
Okay, Anthony, what would you give yourself as a grade for sports knowledge before we started the show, and what would you give yourself a grade for sports knowledge today?
Oh, before we started the show, I'd say probably like a D-, because outside of basketball, I don't even know if I could have named most of the players. And I watch soccer, but I didn't follow any of the players. Now at this point, at least for Cleveland sports, I'd give myself like a C+ maybe. I can't do X's and O's like you guys, but I can talk about just being a fan of everything and enjoying watching it as someone who grew up in the city.
Okay. You guys agree with those grades?
Yeah, he was actually, so me, Mike, and Ant got our own group chat. And Ant was actually dropping some gems during the game.
Really?
Kind of, I can tell you, he had his own takes, his own feelings about what was going on in the game. And I was kind of taken aback because he usually don't do that.
I usually don't text during the games, but I watched that first couple plays and was like, we need Josh Dobbs. I was on that bandwagon, and I will die on that hill.
All right, well, you shouldn't, because Josh Dobbs is not very good. But it's not like the Cardinals. Listen, he's done an okay job with the Cardinals, but, All right, next question. I forgot my question for Earl. I had one. I got to rethink of it. Mike.
Yes.
You have to be totally honest. Nobody's going to be offended, because I've said before that when I first was told I was going to be offered a job in Cleveland, my first reaction was Cleveland, but I'd never been here. And then that quickly changed once I
Look at G.
What's that?
Look at G.
Now G's in the mix? Yeah, secret chats. I thought we only left Steve out of chats. Steve Becker.
No, we all got our own chat.
You got your chat.
We do. We have a producer's chat just for graphics and stuff. Just make sure you guys.
Yeah.
9
Y'all
out
don't
of 10
need to be in
times
our
if we're
mix
talking
like that,
something.
man.
That's true.
It's
You guys do whatever you want.
Yeah.
All right, but so Mike, when you originally this show or a version of the show was originally going to be in Dallas, and not Cleveland. When you found out it was going to be Cleveland instead of Dallas, even though I know you now love Cleveland and you're happy to be here, was your first reaction like, "Oh, this sucks"?
I answered a different way because I was going to take the job no matter what.
No, I know you were, but
I wouldn't. If this job was in Cleveland, I wouldn't have applied.
You wouldn't have. Wow.
So if they said from the get-go, hey, we're going to do this, but we're starting in Cleveland, I wouldn't have applied. And it would have been the worst mistake of my life.
It would have been the worst mistake.
It would have
been,
right. Yeah. It would have been the worst.
So it's good that it happened the way it did.
Yeah, 100 million%. And I've said this before. Like, I genuinely love Cleveland. I have I've embraced the city. It is so much better than anyone could have prepared you for. Coming from, Jersey, then Tennessee, then Texas, then here. Like, it's different than anywhere I've lived. But I couldn't be happier here. But the real answer, Bull, when Steve Becker called me, because I'll make this super short.
Yeah.
I had the job in Texas. The day before Tegna sale went through, where this all got changed, I was waiting on my offer. Like, they already we'll send you your actual contract.
Yeah.
I had COVID that day. It was the only day I ever had COVID. I was throwing my brains up. Steve Becker calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm sure you saw the news. Tegna's getting sold. It's not in Dallas anymore. We're going to Cleveland." And my answer was, like, Cleveland, Texas? That's a tiny town. Like, we can't do a show in just Cleveland, Texas.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, "No, Cleveland, Ohio." And I was like, "Oh, let me think about it." So I was going to take the job anyway. He could have said, "We're going to start in Seattle." I would have been in Seattle.
But you had to make him think it was,
Well, I did visit Cleveland and was like, okay, I can do this. But at the end of the day, I'd already left my other job. So I really didn't have a choice. But I wouldn't have applied in the first place if this was in Cleveland to begin with. And that would have been a terrible mistake.
It would have.
Would have been a terrible mistake.
I'm telling you, when I first found out, when I was offered the job here in Cleveland to do radio here in 2011, or actually I was offered the job originally in 2010, or maybe very early 2011. And at first, I don't know if I've told the story in the air, but at first I didn't know if it was, I was told by my boss in New York, he said, "We're going to offer you a job, a full-time job in the company. I can't tell you what market it's in yet." Have I told you guys this story?
No, please tell us though.
So he said, I can't tell you what market it is. All I can tell you is it's east of the Mississippi. That was all he told me, east of the Mississippi. So I go home. At the time, it was CBS radio. And I wake up. I had done an overnight shift. He called me into his office at 6 o'clock in the morning because in New York, the fan in New York is 24 hours local.
Yeah.
So Bull was signed to G Unit. Was that an insult?
No, G Unit, that's 50 Cent rap group.
Yeah.
It get real behind it. No. Like, hey, we got a different audience on Behind the Glass, but people being here cracking all kind of jokes. That's funny as hell.
Well, it makes sense. It comes from Gucci cigarette.
Gucci cigarette. All right. So anyway, I go home, wake up my wife, and I'm like, they're offering me a full-time job in the company because I was working part-time in New York. I'm like, they're offering me a full-time job in the company. They said it's east of the Mississippi. So I go on the CBS radio website because I didn't know at the time that it was going to be a brand new station starting. I assumed they were offering me a job with a station that already existed because nobody told me otherwise. So I went on the CBS website and I looked at all the big markets east of the Mississippi and I was like, Miami, beautiful. Chicago, beautiful. Boston, beautiful. Philly, DC. I was like, all these places. I'm like, great. I was like, as long as it's not Detroit, we're good. I'm going to, I want to go. Now, I would have taken Detroit too because I wanted a full-time job. So my boss calls me like a month later and he's like, okay, we're offering you a job in Cleveland. And here in my mind, I was thinking Chicago, Miami, Philly, the cities I'd been to. And I'm like, Cleveland? I'm like, oh. But oddly, I said, okay. He's like, well, they're going to call and offer you a job in the next week. And I'm like, even though my initial reaction, and I've said this before, was not excited because I'd never been to Cleveland. And, you hear all the bull crap from people that don't really know what they're talking about. So oddly, before I got offered the job, within a week, I randomly happened in New York to meet 3 people, 2 that were from Cleveland and had moved to New York, and 1 person that's from New York but had gone to Case Western. And so they had lived here for like 5 years. And all 3 said to me, Cleveland's awesome. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Great sports town, blah, blah, blah. So I was within a week, I had changed my mind. I was super excited. And then my boss called me a couple days later and said, yeah, the Cleveland station is off. It's not happening. Sorry, you're out of luck. Oh. And it hung like that for months. And then finally, like 4 months later or whatever, he said, it's back on. And then they offered me the job and the rest is history. But the reason I brought it up is because same as you, like there was part of me that was like Cleveland. And same as you, I embraced it quickly and And now, honestly, I can't really imagine living anywhere else the rest of my life. You know?
Kai had one little thing, because it's funny you said anywhere but Detroit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told any of you guys this. I got offered a job in Detroit in November of last year for like a significant pay raise. And I was like,
last year?
You mentioned it to me. I remember this.
For like a significant raise. And I was like, there's no effing way I'm moving to Detroit.
Really?
No. Yeah.
And Detroit might be nice too, just like Cleveland's nice.
Well, I didn't like the concept of the show or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying, I would have considered it more if it was something I believed in a place that I was like, oh yeah, okay, maybe. But
well, we're glad you didn't go.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I'll tell you more about it tomorrow. But it
all of a sudden out of the blue.
Yeah. You got to ask Earl your question.
Okay, Earl.
3 minutes, so this got to be a quick one here.
Earl, will you admit that management and 92 Through the Fan is the worst? No, don't answer that, Earl. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I mean, I'm not kidding, but I am kidding. I really am. But don't say anything, Earl, obviously. Earl, when you were 15 years old, how old are you now? I can't remember. You're older than I think you are. 35? Yeah. When you were 15 years old, what did you think you'd be doing when you were 35?
I thought I'd be dead, if I'm being totally honest. Yeah, if I'm being totally honest, I didn't really think I was going to live past 20, 21 years old. I was 15. I kind of jumped off the porch. I thought I wanted to be in the streets. I thought I wanted to be like just involved in all of that. But, whoever was praying for me, praying over me, looking out for me, whatever. But this has been a dream of mine since I was 12 years old. It's just that I once believed, because of where I come from or because of my own choices throughout life, that this was never going to be. And so I remember, I worked for the city of Cleveland. I had a good job. I worked my way up to supervisor, and I felt like this is as good as it's going to get. Like, I'm not going to do anything that I always thought, but at least I can take care of my kids. And then when my father passed away, I remember writing my dad's obituary, and my dad died suddenly at 56, but he had accomplished so many goals, so many different accolades and achievements. And at that moment, a kind of a switch flipped for me to where I got one life to live. I got one chance to chase my dreams. And it's funny that you all talk about, being in Cleveland. When I went to Ohio Media School, and I was one of 3 students who was really there to pursue a career in sports media. And everybody there told me that this was a hard market to get a job in, and that in this city in particular, all the jobs was taken. And that if I wanted to do sports media in my city, it would probably be about 6 or 7 years before I ever stepped in front of a microphone or a camera, that I would just be doing board work and producer's work. And 2, that I would have to start my career outside of my city somewhere else. And I kind of told myself at that time, I'm different. And I'm going to prove to y'all I'm different. And I've been blessed this is my 3rd year as a professional. I've spent all 3 years in my hometown. I take pride in saying that I'm from the inner city of Cleveland, Ohio, and I get to cover sports in the same city that I grew up cheering for these teams in. I get to wake up every day and do what I love. I'm not dead. I'm not in jail. I ain't got no criminal record. I ain't got nobody out here trying to do harm to me or my family because of something I did in the past. Whatever I went through, I clearly overcame it, and here we are.
Awesome. Well, we will be back tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show at 11. Hey, this is an intimate fireside chat with us and the viewers. Yeah. That's why we love doing this every week. You guys.
Let me say one thing, Mike.
Yeah, sure.
Just response to what Earl said.
Yeah.
We do not in this business have enough diversity. It's a major problem. I think things are maybe slowly getting better, but the problem is, it's just like in professional sports. And you say, well, why are there so few black head coaches in the NFL, right? Well, all the owners are white. And I'm not saying they're all racist. Probably some of them are. Probably many of them aren't. But if you're an old white dude, right, even if you're open-minded, not racist at all, you still probably grew up around mostly, if not all, white people. Especially old white people, you know what I'm saying? Like guys that own teams that are 70 years old, they probably grew up around all white people. So even if it's subconscious, when you do an interview, if you're a 75-year-old white dude and you're interviewing a 35-year-old white guy and a 35-year-old black guy, there may be just some sort of, even, again, some of it's outright racist. But I think in most cases, it's a subconscious thing where it's like, oh, there's a familiarity with this one guy, so maybe I'm going to trust him more. And you may not even realize that, right? And there was a time where mostly I haven't been in a position to hire people, but there was a time where I was a program director of a small station in upstate New York, and I remembered I interviewed somebody that like had a similar background to me, and I was going to hire the person. And then I was like, I have to. I was trying to make myself conscious of, do I have any biases here? Am I hiring this guy because he's the best guy for the job, or because he reminds me of myself because he has a similar background? Like, and I think unless you take those steps, and it's the same thing to me in management. If you look at, I've been in this business for over 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And if you look, every boss I've had in my entire life has been white. I'm trying to think if in 20 something years in this business, if there's ever been a black person at the executive level in any job I've worked at, not even the big boss. I'm just thinking the executive level period. And maybe I'm just not thinking of it. It's been a long time, but I don't think so. And listen, I spent, more than half my career at one job here in Cleveland, but I've been around enough and I've talked with enough people in other markets, and most people in management look the same. And again, I'm not accusing any of them of being racist. I'm sure most of them are not. But it's just a subconscious comfort or familiarity with somebody that leads to people getting jobs. And everybody has an accent or talks a certain way or uses a certain type of language, and people are going to be more comfortable often with someone that talks or sounds or maybe even looks like them. And to get through that, to move on from that, to be better than that, either two things have to happen. Either we have to get to a point where we have more black representation, and not just that, Latin. I mean, you want to talk? I don't know if I've worked with one Latino person in 20 years.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. So that it's not just, but if all the owners are white and all and all upper management is white, well, it makes it even harder. So if those positions turn over less, and if those people are all going to continue to be white, and hopefully you'll see more diversity in those positions, but even if you don't, you need the people that are in there to be willing to say to themselves, I've got to come into this with an open mind. I've got to realize that I may have a subconscious bias, because the people that are racist, there's nothing you can do about those people. They're not going to, they're lost causes. But the people that are not, which I think is the majority, but that may have some subconscious biases, if they think about it, if they tell themselves, hey, make sure you're not leaning towards this guy because of the way he sounds, but really let's pick the best person here, then I think we will see things continue to get better.
Hey, anyway. Mike, I know you want to rap, man, but I got to go off of something Boy said. So, behind the glass, we try to take people behind the scenes, and like on camera, on air, when we doing our thing, Boy take a lot of heat because of how he present his takes. And that's how Bull is good at his job. We don't try to be right or wrong. We try to present the facts, but at the same time, we try to create an emotional reaction. So if you like it, don't like it, but you react to it, I mean, I did something. But Bull got a big heart. And, Bull, you've been at the Fan longer than I was. I think I'm like the third person ever of color to host a radio show at 92.3 The Fan. And am I correct on that?
What, UG Bush and Double A?
Double A, yeah. And Double A did it before I did.
Did the BSK ever do a show? I don't think so.
So I'm like I'm either the third or the fourth person ever at 92.3 The Fan that hosts a show. And Bull would always he would call me, he would give me feedback, tell me where he thought I was solid, tell me where I can actually work on some things. And then when I go back to my community, I hear a lot of people talk about, man, like, when you be up there on UCSS, like, you're not afraid of Bull, you're not afraid of Jay. Like, these some big dogs, and you hold your own weight. And he said something like representation matters. And that's why I try to be so conscious of what I do and how I go about my profession, taking my job seriously and always working hard. I don't necessarily look at things like, okay, I got to make sure my kids are straight. I look at things like it might be a young man or a young woman that's Black that grew up in an inner city like me that got big ass dreams, big ass goals, but nobody around them to kind of push them in that direction. And so it's important me to nurture where I'm at to grow myself in this profession, because I do want to touch the next mind of the next person that look like me, who feel like they can't get an opportunity to do this, and let you know, like, yeah, it's hard as hell. And sometimes you might have to double down and triple down on the work. But, if you get around the right people and you have a little luck and you just continue to work hard, that you can get here. So like, I take pride in being here. I take pride of being a man of color that got my own voice, my own style. I'm not trying to look like nobody else, and I be raw and authentic with who I am. And I think the audience appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Bull, for every piece of feedback that you've ever given me. And like,
thank you. And let me say that it is one of the things I love about the show is that nobody gets pigeonholed. Nobody tries to be somebody they're not. Like, we all come from different backgrounds. We all bring our own life experiences, and we all, I think, appreciate that from each other. And we have a fun time. We bust each other's balls because that's what guys do. But nobody's trying to pretend to be somebody else. And that's cool. And I think when you say
you spot a phony, Bull, we've always called out phonies.
Yeah, we hate that.
We've always called out phonies.
But I think Earl made one really, really good point you made there is, probably when I was a kid, all right? When I was a kid, and I remember WFAN in New York went on the air in 1980 in the winter of 86 to 87. I think it was, I can't remember, it was late 86 or early 87, right? I was 15 years old when the station went on the air. You guys weren't even born, obviously. What year were you born, Earl?
I was born in 87.
Okay, so you were just born, and you guys weren't even born yet. And I remember as a kid, like, there was no such thing as sports talk radio. There might have been like one or two shows, a couple of shows across the country, but there was not a sports radio station. It didn't exist. The only way I could get scores in those days was to listen to the news station, which would give you scores every half an hour, or call a thing called Sports Phone. I actually would have to dial.
I remember that.
You remember Sports Phone?
Well, in Tennessee, that's how we had to get some of the scores for the high schools.
It's insane. But I remember when I first heard the Fan go on the air, I was 15. And when I was a kid, I used to play like a game called Stratomatic, another game called Pursue the Pennant, which was like a dice game with baseball players. And I would do the play-by-play. My first dream was always to be a play-by-play guy. But then my second thing was once I heard sports radio, I was like, well, I want to do that. I wanted to do play-by-play or sports radio. It was always something I wanted to do. And I would imagine that kids a little younger than me, and you're a lot younger than me, but kids like maybe 5-10 years younger than me were probably, if you were a black kid, you probably thought maybe there was no chance because you weren't hearing any black guys on the radio. I mean, and maybe there was in other parts of the country, but I didn't
know about them.
No,
if it wasn't New York, it probably wasn't anywhere. I mean, New York
there was when the Fan in New York went on, when originally went on. One of the co-hosts actually was Dave Sims. Do you guys know who Dave Sims is?
No.
He does play-by-play for the Mariners. He's black. But he wasn't on very long. Or maybe, I can't remember. Maybe I could be mistaken about that. But I know there was one guy, but they moved on and changed things up quickly. And that station's been on the air for, 37 years? And they have had... Now, they do have one full-time host, their nighttime guy. His name is Keith. I can't think of his last name.
I saw an article today. They want to make Tiki Barber the new face of.
Well, Tiki and now Tiki. So they've gotten better. But look how many years it's been. There's been very few.
2 and 30-something years is unacceptable.
Well, it's not 2, but there was a guy named Tony, overnight guy. He did overnights. Tony Page.
Tony Page.
Who did, but not a lot. Not a lot of representation.
Not enough. At the end of the day,
they've only had one full-time female host. They've never had a Latino host, I don't think, that I can recall. So it matters. So when Earl is on the show, when G is on the show, when Tyvis is on the show, I think young kids watching our show more than any other sports outlet in this city by far, if they're watching, whether they're living in Cleveland, wherever the hell they are, suburbs or city, doesn't matter. If you're a 15-year-old black kid right now and you're watching our show, you're saying, hey, I can make this a career.
Yeah.
And you guys are all, G's in his 40s, you're in your 30s, and Tyvis, I think Tyvis turns 30 next year.
No, next year. He's 29 right now.
But he's turning 30 soon. But still, you guys are, half generations away from each other. And so I think that makes a difference. And that's something that's important. That's really, really
Shout
really
out to
cool.
UCSS.
Yeah.
Land-made, baby.
Earl,
Land-made.
we started this show talking about what you're doing next Friday, speaking to it's
Cuyahoga County Juvenile Detention.
Yes, okay. I didn't want to say wrong. So that's awesome. We ended with this. This is what you get up behind the glass. Real, raw, unfiltered conversations. And, Bo, we appreciate you joining us. We are back tomorrow at 11 a.m. on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You guys stick around for 1 sec. I'll tell you off air about that job in Detroit. I don't want to put them on blast here. But for the rest of y'all, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.